I'm going to tell you a little story about it. And so everything in Pantopia is full of story. There's actually novels and books written about the legendary Pantopia and all the residents that have come through here and lived over the past centuries and years. But this one is really interesting, and it's actually very unusual because it relates to a fellow named Akbar. And Akbar used to have this tour company down in Egypt. It did terribly fail. Nobody wanted to go on these tours. Nobody was having it, right? So he shut up his tour shop, but what he did have was a gift shop down there, a bazaar, that did really, really well. So he took his retail experience and he moved it here to Pantopia just after he shut down the tour. So he moved that store here, and how he transported the goods around was on the back of a camel. And because Akbar was this lavish, sort of fabulous character, he would often take his camel and drape his camel with various fabrics and textures and colors like this up here. And people would say, look at that camel walking around, it looks like it's painted. All right. And that painted camel really became the namesake for the store. And also, Akbar had a friend, a little primate, a little monkey guy that actually lived in the store with him. But he was very naughty and mischievous, so he'd often steal the keys from other Pantopians. So he was always seen running around the village with a key in his hand. So that's how the Painted Camel Bazaar became part of Pantopia. And you can see the actual sign right here. It's Painted Camel. And so this is actually your inside of Painted Camel Bazaar, run and operated by Akbar and his associates. And it's really the central hub of retail. So when we get done talking, when you look behind you and you explore a little bit, you'll see that retail is changing shape and form and function for Busch Gardens. And we're moving out of a more standard retail into a more casual retail environment, where all the fixtures are actually found objects from around the world, recycled, repurposed, and reused. And they come from the far reaches of the globe, long gone, or the steel racks and sort of standard things you would see in retail store. It's all about eclectic items brought in together to kind of serve a purpose of unification and interest. But behind me are actually the props of Pantopia. This is some of the real props that will actually go into the project itself outside. And I'm going to walk you through some of those items and some of the images you see behind me, give you a little bit more insight on the stories and the textures and the colors. Then when we're done, you can come up and touch and move stuff, take photos, and nothing's anchored so you can have some fun. All right, so first up is the outside elevation. So these are actually real artwork. This is watercolors that we did early on in the project to describe what Pantopia could look like. But I want you to pay attention to this section right here, which is the blue section. Everything has a color story and a human story and an animal story attached to it. And the blue area obviously represents cold. So this zone was actually new construction. It's being built right now. It's additive. It's new culinary experiences. And it's actually the story of Frosty Stolas. So Frosty was actually from the island of Mykonos, Greece, and he had a plane called Lynx Airlines. And Frosty loved to fly his plane from Greece, believe it or not, all the way to Antarctica and all the way to the Arctic. So he would often be seen with ice and fur, like big coats and all this great stuff. And his animal friend is a lynx. Well, he came to Pantopia, parked his plane in the transportation hub, and he couldn't get it started, so he cut it in half and made it a food kiosk on the side of the street. So Frosty, instead of his plain fuselage tail now, they used to say Lynx Airlines, it now says, cross the airlines out, now it says Lynx Frozen Treats, and the lynx is a reference to the animal from the Icespiration show here at Busch Gardens Tampa. And he sells all things cold. It's snow cones and smoothies. And all the color palette is cool color palettes from the island of Mykonos, which is cobalt blues and some white and various shades of blues as well. So it's kind of cool. Moving along, the color will go from cold to hot, and we have this Komodo dragon piece of artwork on the wall with plates that are all hot, red hot iron colored as we move into the next culinary unit, which is called Dragon Fire Grill. And I don't have a great image of Dragon Fire Grill, but it's actually located right here as a new construction on the front of the current desert. And this is an outdoor flame grill where our team members will be grilling food on sticks. It's a great way to describe it. And so it's a quick grab-and-go place to grab food on a stick. It's all kebabs. So it's vegetable kebabs, meat kebabs, all types of kebabs that'll be sold there. And it's kind of positioned as a iron workers, sort of hot metal iron swordsmith, blacksmith sort of space within Pantopia. That's who lives there. That's who operates that. All right. So moving along, this is actually the building we're in. This is Painted Camel Bazaar. And here you can see the sign, and you can see some of the influences. These rugs, for instance, I'm standing on, are these rugs on the building. And these have a great story because we found objects for Pantopia from all over the planet, but also here, locally. And so these are American-made rugs. They are actually made out of recycled plastic and telephone. So they'll last really well in Florida temperatures and heat, but they look fantastic and they have a great recycling story, so we like them a lot. You'll see a lot of that throughout the whole project as well. Also keys, huge influence in design of keys for unlocking those mysteries. We like this. And then also the buildings are all jeweled and decorated. And so everything in Pantopia is lavish. Anything goes. There is no right or wrong necessarily. So putting jewelry on buildings, no problem. You got it. And they're big jewelry. It's big stuff. These are some of the pieces we're starting to pull in and start building the jewelry itself. Moving behind me, these are some of the personal items and artifacts brought around the world by the travelers. You see everything, all animal influence, from recycled rugs and mats as a camel sculpture to hand-carved wooden elephants and to jewelry, all kinds of really interesting things here. But our most prized possession at Pantopia happens to be this very ordinary sack. So anybody that looks at the sack would probably think, wow, that's kind of not very exciting. But actually, we're very honored to even have the sack here. And it's a real treat because it actually belonged to the founding father, the keymaster of Pantopia. It was his ballast for his hot air balloon. And there's only one remaining, and this is it. Because it shows the original art of Pantopia is here on this bag. And it actually represents his version of the art, which represents the four corners of the globe that he had traveled in his balloon. And so he knew he wouldn't be able to fly out of here once his balloon landed and crashed on the side of the gate. So he knew he was going to set up house and shop here. And so that was his, I've done it, I've been to the four corners, and now I'm being Pantopia and share those stories with everybody else around the world. So it's a great little story. So we're very lucky to have this thing. And then the keys. So Pantopia is laden with keys. They are everywhere. They are in design. Some of these keys are 4 feet tall, some of these keys are half an inch long. So they come in every size and range because everyone wants to find their own key and unlock their own stories. And it's very easy to unlock stories in nature. You just have to look closely and take a moment. And so we want to provide those opportunities here in Pantopia for the guests to take a look and look at what appears to be an ordinary wall and understand it's telling the story of the fire island that Komodo dragons live on. And so it's that sort of deep, rich storytelling that Pantopia is legendary for, and it's full of it. Moving along, there is the influence and style board for the actual Akbar's retail space. So this shows a little bit of design process. Design process can be very neat, can be very sloppy, it can be a lot of fun, it's often very loud. But this kind of shows you the results of what we wanted this store to be. If you look closely, you'll start to see some of our, store layout plans and sort of influences for how the space will look, including final renderings up here once it's all built out and done. And then the final two here. This is the west gate. So we entered through the key gate. This gate is located over by Congo bumper cars. There's only 2 ways in and out of Pantopia. This is the other gate, and it has the prayer flags represent species of Busch Gardens Tampa. So they're handmade flags that are being painted and dyed, and they'll be used as the shade cloth and the sort of entry moment for guests arriving the other direction into Pantopia. And then last is a great surprise, a very, very treasured piece. We have this amazing carousel here at Busch Gardens Tampa. It's one of the original attractions. It was restored recently, and it has all new LED lighting. It looks fantastic. The horses and the ride are great, but we never really took care of the canopy. So when you go outside, you'll see we're starting to paint it now, but this canopy will be gilded, painted, stenciled, adorned. It will have a valance wrapping around it, and big giant drapes, as you see, and high backs, to really make it the grand carousel that it is. And this is an important note because Falcon's Fury will attract the most extreme riders around the planet to come to ride this one-of-a-kind, tallest freestanding, face-down, first-of-its-kind attraction. It's incredible. But we want to make sure that our families and the rest of the folks who come to our park that might not want to ride that ride have things to do, and we let them have the same rich, amazing experience. So doing the carousel is a big piece of that. The kid rides will be coming back as well, and then we have the other attractions in Pantopia.
That's
so
the top of the carousel.
That's the canopy of the canopy carousel.
And I have a quick question.
Yeah. Names. So we knew what this place was about, and we knew the story of the land. And we came up with Pantopia because it's a mix of pan, word for earth or continent, and utopia. So it's really a place of bliss and unification. And so that's really how the name came to be.
Cool. Thank you so much.